Hi, everybody. Today is Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021, and you are at the bi-weekly Kubernetes K8s Infra working group meeting. I am your host slash chair, Aaron Sigbeard, also known as SpiffXP on all the places. And we're all going to adhere to the Kubernetes code of conduct in this meeting, but basically being our very best selves and not being jerks to each other. If you have a problem with the conduct at this meeting, please email conduct@kubernetes.io, or you are also free to reach out to me privately. As this meeting is being publicly recorded, it will be posted to YouTube later. Okay, I think that's my little preamble there. Welcome. I feel like I know you, Caleb, but I feel like I'm seeing some faces I haven't seen in a while. Does anybody want to introduce themselves and say hi?
Yeah, I'll just say hey again. Good to see you. It's been a little while. I'm excited to be involved in some of the things that you're involved in again. And I'm to others. I'm from II, so I work with Hippie Hacker and Brian. So yes, hello.
Awesome. Good to have you here. Next up, we always check out the billing report. So I'm going to pull up Data Studio here. I don't know if Tim wants to pull up something equivalent on his side to compare. Share screen. But this is basically what the billing report looks like. I can't say that I see anything wildly out of line here. This lines up roughly with our spend over the previous 28 days, as I recall, and we're seeing, rises and falls. This jump up here is certainly interesting, but it's not something I feel compelled to act on immediately. I suppose if I was really curious, I could just try filtering out the artifacts prod project, just to get a quick glance at whether or not that's a change in CI or a change in artifacts pulled.
Which bump are you looking at? I can't see through the highlight.
So it looks like there's a sharp up and to the right here on this side.
It might be frozen. Sorry.
Yeah, I think your video is frozen, Aaron.
Oh no. Okay. Well, then I'll stop that. I'll try one more time, but if that doesn't work, that's a bummer.
Are you talking about March 1?
Yeah, March 1 and beyond. So actually, yeah. I think I can explain this. All right, can you see that?
No.
No.
This is completely blank for me.
Okay.
Oh no.
I feel like I have to blame something about my Big Sur setup or something. Essentially, I see a tick up into the, man, if I can't share my screen, this is going to be annoying. I see a tick up. Does somebody else want to share their screen maybe? It's fine. Well,
I can share my screen.
Mind, pardon?
I can share my screen if you want.
Sure, that would be super helpful, Arno. I'm gonna, I trust you will be willing to share whatever you feel is relevant. I'm gonna make you co-host so you can actually share your screen.
Okay.
So maybe we have stuff more entertaining to look at than my face as I talk. So I think that the rise up and to the right for CI since March 1st may be worth looking at. My suspicion is I recently changed the Prow build cluster's capacity. It had been peaked at 150 nodes. And I bumped that up to 240 nodes because for when auto scaling was hitting that limit, jobs weren't getting scheduled. And so there would be waves of frustration through the Kubernetes community during high traffic periods where their jobs just randomly would fail or get a pod pending timeout error, and they didn't really understand why. So I raised it up. I haven't really changed our quota that much to account for that. But that's one potential thing. I can certainly open up a follow-up issue to dig more into this later, but I'm certainly open to.
So I'm looking at the GCP console view of the same thing, and it's hard to say that there's any one contributing factor. It looks like pretty much every category looks larger on March 1st than it did on, say, Feb 22, which is the same point in the uptick.
Okay.
So like downloads are they're just higher.
Okay. Even just downloads, not just the.
Yeah, even just download worldwide destinations, excluding Asia, Australia is, let's pick on the March 1st in particular, 2,500. And on Feb 22 is 2,100. So, 35, 40% higher.
Okay.
So I don't know why.
Maybe everybody got really excited that Go 1.16 came out and you can build Kubernetes with it now.
If only we had some logs to tell us what was being downloaded the most.
I think you're skipping ahead on the agenda a bit. Anyway, yeah, I think I'm gonna file a little issue for me to take a look at this. I'm not gonna move urgently on it, but the bump in prow build resources makes me a little curious. It's like I'm looking at just the build cluster itself as Arnaud has filtered out here. That's still a pretty hefty bump. So I'd like to understand if that's things we did recently. We upgraded to 118 for the build clusters. So for the first time in a while, the Kubernetes jobs are running on a supported version of Kubernetes. I know we switched away from Bazel. It's possible that we are spending more compute or slightly longer building using the make build because it's currently pretty, it doesn't do a whole lot of caching and stuff.
That could be.
Yeah.
And it's going to get worse this week, right? As code freeze comes upon us and everybody's slamming their PRs out. So it's gonna uptick more this week than before.
It's true, but ultimately, I also feel like this level of CI here still isn't really anything to write home about compared to the rest of CI that hasn't even been migrated over here.
Yes.
So, I mean, don't get me wrong, the pre-submits here are pretty much the vast majority of the traffic that the project receives, but we still have a lot. So this trend is something I would definitely want to look at, but the absolute value here doesn't make it super urgent for me right now.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. AI review, I did not have time to go through and scrape AIs, but I see a bunch of people have put stuff on the open discussion section. So I suppose we just move on to that. And so, Ricardo, why don't you get us up to date on what's going on with certificates?
Sure. Yeah, so I have just finished my lunch. Yeah, so I was talking with James about that, and he corrected the problem that occurred that again this week. I think Tim raised an alert about the certificates being expired again. So James has put a controller that runs actually the workaround on the Ingress objects, and it's this pull request, but he asked me to put this on the agenda so you could take a look into this workaround, this controller, and see if this is fine as a first short path approach. And I was talking with him and maybe wondering if we should try to migrate the certificates from HTTP issuance to DNS issuance, and maybe have a wildcard certificate like a wildcard for K8s.io and Kubernetes.io. So at least if we have like expiration problem, we will have with only one certificate and not with 54. So we have, I have raised an issue. I think the number is wrong, but I have raised an issue. I will put the right number here. Yeah, only the text is wrong. And if you can please take a look into that, because I want to discuss with James and also with you folks the implications about security, because we don't want like the cert manager to have access directly to the DNS, but we want some sort of like a CNAME for the wildcard issues and then a non-privileged DNS, so cert manager can at least provide the challenges for Let's Encrypt, and maybe we have like one certificate that can get renewed automatically. And also I saw that Tim left some reviews on the certificate expiration monitoring. I just didn't have enough time this week to take a look, but I'm also running against the code freeze and the things from network policy things, but I will try to take a look into that probably between today and next week. I think that's all.
That's awesome. I guess just speaking for myself, the details of the certificate stuff is not exactly my wheelhouse, especially the security implications of wildcard stuff. I guess my default instinct is to defer to Tim, who I think has a better security perspective on this. I also know that I think the controller that sort of is supposed to automate some of this stuff was something Ben the Elder chatted with Munners about. So if Tim's review bandwidth is constrained, I'd be willing to trust that Ben could take a closer look at it. But the wildcard thing to me feels like a policy question that I'd like to hear from Tim on. The role I can play to help unblock is like, if we need stuff to get deployed, I'll make sure it doesn't look completely crazy.
Yeah, the wildcard is worrisome mostly because if it gets exfiltrated, then somebody else can claim to be something.kubernetes.io. Not that I don't trust all the lovely people here, but it's a risk we should take only if we really don't have a better choice. I think the controller doesn't sound that bad until the real issue is fixed, whether that's a cert manager fix or something else. I think it's a cert manager fix was what James was saying. So I would lean more towards the controller direction if we can.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. Thank you, folks. So I will let James know about that. So probably we can move forward with the controller thing and get that merged and leave this as a workaround until cert manager is fixed. Yeah, sounds good to me.
That sounds good. And I'll just since I have this voice inside my own head at times, is totally fine that you haven't immediately responded to Tim's review. I think the latency is all a little higher for us at the moment.
Just for context, in addition to being code freeze week, it's also Google's perf review week. So many of us at Google are slammed with doing reviews and other things. So apologies for people who are waiting for reviews. If you're blocked on me, and Aaron, I've actually got your PR in front of me, people who are waiting on me for stuff, feel free to ping me and let me know that you're waiting. That's okay.
We are on a rush this week. Yeah. Thank you, folks.
Okay. Thank you, Ricardo. So Caleb, you want to talk about an updated K8s Infra diagram?
Yeah. So I did a little bit of work on this. I was looking at one of the KubeCon presentations, and I copied it for what it was, and then put it in a place where we're able to continue updating it from there. So I've also dropped a preview link as to see what it looks like, because unless you want to read some XML, you won't be able to see exactly what it looks like if you go to the PR. So Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for dropping the link there.
Thank you for doing this, because it's something I haven't done in forever. B, at the moment, I feel like this is more appropriate for SIG testing, since it talks a lot more about the test infra stuff. So this is based off of slides I did back in like 2018. The next big chunk of technical debt that needs to be reconciled at some point is like showing how much of this now runs in K8s Infra. I'm trying to work sort of with the test infra team, but also Arno's been helping me out, trying to like sort of better document and put together a playbook and stuff for the proud build clusters. And I'd love to, I'm trying to kind of get us to recognize that there's like a service cluster, and then there are build clusters, and they are hosted in different places, and they have different levels of access. And so I feel like that kind of diagram could be useful for K8s Infra. I think like something that showed where the AAA, where the AAA cluster is, and the idea that we have different namespaces and stuff could be an awesome diagram. I'm not trying to blow your scope. I'm just saying, if you are so supercharged by doing a diagram for test infra that you want to do more, we would really love to have you.
Yeah, I'm not particularly sure on the scope of this, but from what the diagram is right now, does that reflect more or less what the current test infra is, aside from how you're saying about the separation between the service and build clusters?
I'll take a quick look, but look, my gut instinct is like, this is infinitely better than what's there right now. Ship it. And we can talk about what new pieces are missing down the line.
Thank you.
Okay. So next, I think you want to talk about trying to move to a plan of like registry.k8s.io or artifacts.k8s.io or something. So for context, this is us talking about like we want to empower multiple members of the CNCF to mirror and or host mirrors or host artifacts, so that it's not just GCR that's serving all these things. And it's unclear to us whether we're going to have to rename from k8s.gcr.io to do so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let you go from there.
Yeah, so just to read through my subpoints there, there's a POC for, I think, an artifact server, which we discovered, which is, it appears to be unused. And so something like that, where it's able to be run in a cluster somewhere across any of the providers, able to share a bucket somewhere. Yeah, that looked like it could be useful, because it's not just container artifacts that we want to be able to host. Of course, it's binaries and files and you name it. Yes, container images and artifacts, and also looking into maybe using Harbor for some things around that, because it is a CNCF project and it runs anywhere. So yeah, are there any thoughts around that for starters before I get into like the whole yes, Tim, hand up.
So you're right that there's two problems at hand. There's GCR and there's everything else. And we've really sort of underserviced everything else historically. Like, we know it's important. Not all of it is even migrated into community space yet. So I don't know if, I wouldn't say it's not, excuse me, I would not say it is a requirement that the two have the same solution, but if they do, awesome. But I'm trying to give you some freedom of implementation there. Yeah, I suspect we will ultimately have to change the DNS name that we use, because I doubt very much that we'll be given authority to do anything with the gcr.io suffix. That's Google's, and Google does not like to share. So if we're going to do it, let's figure out how we're going to do it one more time, having done it once already. It was very tedious, but not hard. Yeah, I have no particular knowledge of how the right way to do this is. This is where I run into the brick wall of like ideas, like what is the right way to do this so that customers are happy with the security that we're applying to it, that they know they're getting the real deal. I don't know how to tackle that problem. That is outside of my domain of expertise. And it's very high on my list of things I'm worried about.
I have two thoughts here. One of them, well, thank you, Tim, for the information. And also, even though Justin, I don't think he's on the call, thanks heaps for those initial POCs and all the work taken to get here. I wonder if there's a focus we could look at for these two different things. One is a caching solution where the authority and how we're publishing now doesn't change, and the caching when a provider is dialing into their instance of the thing, or maybe the 303 redirects, point them to a local cache where we don't worry about complete mirroring. The artifacts are pulled at the first requested and cached. And then the other is, and I think, Tim, you touched on this, is ensuring that the artifacts delivered are secured. And there's Harbor is one of the pieces of software. We're looking into that. I'm also reaching out to Microsoft as they, I don't know what they did, but inside for their solution of their version of Kubernetes, hosted Kubernetes, they came up with the deployment. But I want to find out what other people have done and get a little more feedback before we present a few options.
Yeah, my impression is I thought like Azure or ACR or something like already mirrored a number of repos for to be friendly for their customers and users in Asia and China. So
that makes complete sense. I would expect that other providers have done this. Where we are most lacking is the transparency, right? As a customer, you have to switch to K8s.acr.io or whatever the name is. I don't actually know, right? Which is sort of obnoxious if from a UX point of view. I think as a community we can do better for all those users who are around the world. The thing I'm terrified of, and we may not be able to avoid it, but I'm still scared of it, is putting binaries that we now have to be on call for in the data path for users.
Yeah, that's the same thing I guess I was going to say in a slightly different way. One of the benefits we have of the K8s.gcr.io setup, and I think even artifacts.k8s.io, is we just lean on Google Cloud's load balancing solution. And GCR, we probably lean on whatever Google's internal load balancing solution is. I'd rather the thing that handles all the traffic up front is infrastructure level and not something that we feel compelled to run on our own Kubernetes clusters anywhere.
Right. Strictly speaking, it doesn't. Sorry to ask the question from Google. I don't know. Is there CDN for container images? Is that a thing?
Actually, there is the CDN thing. I know that Amazon allows you to put their CDN in front of anything running inside their infrastructure. So my question is if the CDN from Google couldn't be used this way also. There is a CDN
Mm-hmm.
service and I'm wondering if we can like have this pointed to a specific container registry or a bucket or something like that.
Maybe. I don't honestly know enough about it. I don't think there's a way to put the CDN in front of GCR because they're two separate verticals. But I honestly don't know enough about how the CDN is configured here. I don't know that that will actually ultimately solve the problem of users in Amazon staying within Amazon's network, right? Unless we put a mirror inside of Amazon's network, right? Which they would have to run.
Yeah.
So like I said, I'm totally open to all possibilities here. I would say in the priority stack of solutions, configuring an automated load balancer like Cloud or something else is strictly better in every way than running our own Nginx, for example.
Yeah, I agree with that. I guess, yeah. So I sort of agree with Tim that we have underserved the whole promotion of binary artifacts and everything else. I don't know that I would want to put completion of that on the critical path to let's find a hosting solution or let's find a mirroring solution. Again, I think it's a good idea to look at it and figure out how, let's make sure we don't go through a one-way door and force ourselves to have to reinvent the wheel again when we start looking at artifacts. But I feel like we kind of need a lot more involvement from the release engineering folks and a bunch of other people to actually make artifact promotion or promotion of arbitrary binaries a reality. I might be wrong. Justin's not here. He might say different. But yeah.
I agree with you. I think container image promotion is the more clear and present, I don't say danger, but the more clear and present target. We understand it well. It's completely migrated. So, it's completely within our domain right now. It seems like the easier target.
Yeah. Okay, having said that out loud, I'll just flip around for a second and say, what I do feel like artifact promotion or not, what could conceivably happen in the next month is I move all the Kubernetes releases. So I migrate dl.k8s.io traffic to the community. And we could find out that that's an order of magnitude larger than what k8s.gcr.io is. I don't honestly know.
Well, we have an upper bound. We can look at the billing of the internal project and know that it's not going to be any worse than that, right?
Right.
And last I looked, it was not an order of magnitude, but it was on the same order of magnitude as container images.
Yeah. I guess the catch or trick there, that is a thing that right now Nginx, we have an Nginx instance fronting dl.k8s.io. I suspect.
Well, the Nginx isn't on the data path though, right? It's only on the query path. It issues a redirect and you go straight to Google storage.
Correct. That's what I mean. So yeah,
yes.
It's not the Google storage.
I'm just making the distinction because one of the proposals for doing the registry stuff was, well, you can actually beat an Nginx config into submission such that it pretends to be a registry and actually fronts another registry, right? And it was a really cool demonstration, and all the data from that registry would stream back through that Nginx, and there's just no way I want to manage that.
No. Yeah.
Sounds really fascinating nonetheless. Do you have any links to that? Because I'm very curious for some reason.
I might be able to dig up an Nginx config. It was an interesting config. Let me see what I can find.
Yeah, we're going straight to production right now. Thanks, Tim.
So, and then I guess the other comment I had is, I think, secure delivery of these artifacts sounds sounds good. Using something like Harbor might be cool. My little engineer sense was just like, is this scope creep? If I was looking at it purely from like, let's make sure we shed the load appropriately, but I might be wrong. It could be that as soon as we introduce mirrors into the mix, you actually really do need to validate that the images are what you think they are.
Well, so I'm not an expert in the image subsystem, but my understanding is the protocol says first you resolve a name to a hash, and the hash is independently verifiable, right? So you can resolve the name to a hash at a central place. That's a low bandwidth operation. And then fetch the hash from any one of n places, and the hash is independently verifiable, right? So it feels like the vulnerability is on that first resolution. I don't know how to distribute the resolution, but I know that if we just distributed the hash polling, that would be a huge win. So maybe we can break the problem into two, and that's the end of my even comprehension of the image polling protocol. If only Justin were here, he would shame me.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm super excited. Y'all are looking into this. Do you feel like you have sufficient rambly opinions from Tim and I to make progress, or what would you like from us?
Good question. So I'm still waking up a little bit, so
Okay.
I'm trying to keep all of this. We have a note taker. Whoever that is, I appreciate it. So
did we give you guys a playground so that you could, like a GCP project or something that you can go and just tinker with stuff and see what happens?
I'm not sure. Chris?
I was helped out with some things early on, and I think the only access that we have is through me as part of the auditing group. I think I've been removed from DNS and a few others. We probably should create in this case, a registry puller, the test development area for.
Sure. We've done this in the past for, like, when SIG release was trying to retool some of the release engineering stuff. We just gave them a project and said, go nuts within reason, and when you're done, we'll delete it all. So I think we can do the same thing.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I put an AI, I'll make an issue. Or actually, maybe I'll put it on you guys. You can, sorry, guys, you folks, to make an issue, and we'll work through it. So that seems totally fair.
That sounds great. Thank you.
And last thing before we move on, Tim's little, if only there was some way we could see who's downloading what storage artifacts or whatever. Last I recall, we were talking about how we want the CNCF to sort of articulate what their comfort level is regarding who should have access to those logs, since they contain, PII in the form of IP addresses and stuff. And I think we're close to having that resolved, such that Hippie and Caleb and other folks from II are clear for this. So my plan was to set up a group that is specifically for individuals who are allowed to have access to this. And then we could try flipping access logs back on. But I'm also in no rush to, I don't know, I guess I'm trying to gauge Tim's comfort level with that.
I suspect that it's blocked in part on me, because I saw a bunch of email in my mailbox, which I haven't been able to get to through this week, with subjects that refer to this space. So I'm totally game. Priyanka's thumbs up the II folks to have access here. I'm still waiting on her to give us sort of an official PII policy, and to set up sort of a protocol for anybody who wants to join this group. What, like, do you have to sign something or go through some mandatory training or something, right? Like at Google, in order to get access to any PII, there's training that you have to take, right? and you have to take a year leave. So I don't know what CNCF wants to establish there.
Articles on the Google Help Center
Thanks,
that
Google.
might
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to check in on where we were at, or refresh where we're at with that lately. Okay, I want to move us along because we got a couple other things on the agenda. Another reason y'all are here so early in your local time. Hippie, you want to talk about audit updates?
Sure. One of the things we did early on at II was to help, and I think Tim was heavily involved as well, was the creation of our audit trails for changes. And when we stepped back, it's a lot of load for a lot of reasons, but we would create that PR before the meetings. We now have a new audit update that was after a slew of about 16 to 18 PRs that I tried to make into small chunks, although I think Aaron did a beautiful job at making a single PR with lots of commits, which was a little harder to automate with the bot. But I think the ones from the bot have merged. And this audit is post those merges. It's still pretty large, but it's definitely, the blast radius is much smaller and easier to review. If you want to see exactly how we did it, we finally have merged that the CAI K8s IO audit image, currently running every 6 hours. We can change that, but let's not do more than 2 because it takes about 2 hours to run.
I'm totally happy with 6 or even 24 hours, but you know, like 3 months was a problem.
Yeah.
This should resolve that. I feel Aaron picked it up. I mean, there was like 7 months of having to take that load on, and that's too much for anybody. And that's, apologize that we got into that state.
So I don't find the reviews to be that hard, but I automated some parts of it to make it easier to see. I wonder if we can do something like have a sort of canonical version of each different category of stuff and then diff the incoming audits against those things. So, you know, if I see that there's a new project that matches the K8s Boscos, you know, pattern, then it should roughly look like this template. And if it's not, that's something that we should highlight. I don't know what the mechanism we could use for that is.
That is a path I'm, progressively trying to push us toward, I guess.
The only way I did it in review is I patched it in and then I ran a script against each one and looked at the deltas.
Yeah, I saw your script looked, kind of like mine when I was comparing some staging projects. There's lots of sed. It's just amazing.
Just wipe out all the things you know are going to be different and then compare the rest. And
yeah,
it served reasonably well.
So thank you so much for actually pushing to get the job to open up PRs automatically. I feel like Tim and I have done many lengthy reviews on my massive PRs, and then I did a bunch of reviews on the PRs you opened up. I have been trying to open up follow-up issues for all of these things and prefix them with the word audit follow-up and give them the infra auditing label, so we know what we have to clean up. And I've been going through to try to reconcile these. I personally might be interested in, we'll see, depends on my time. I would be interested in more frequent than 6 hours to see me resolve this stuff. But to Tim's point, this is a direction I kind of started heading with managing custom roles on the organization. I'm trying to, even if it's our horrible bash for now, I would like to see us start to converge on a pattern of having like the spec for these common patterns defined in YAML, and then some way of like dumping that to that canonical, this is what it should look like thing. Because then I feel like we could have, it might be more easy to compare the audit stuff against the YAML stuff. So I forget, I swear I thought I saw you mention this somewhere, Tim, but this is why I threw YQ into some scripts instead of JQ, because YAML can have comments. And I think that being able to use something that is commented for our source of truth would be really cool. And so I could see like making some PRs to the audit scripts to move everything over to YAML, but I want to get us to kind of like, there are no changes standing out there that we need to review before I start doing that. Okay, and Tim, either I'll probably put together some horrible amalgamation of your or my hacky scripts. The K8s IO repo has a hack directory now, so why not?
Long tradition.
Yeah. On that note, yeah, like Arnaud and I have been starting to take a look at trying to get tests for this repo up and running. Because like we have a couple specific tests for like the group's YAML or for like the container image promoter when we do pulls to manifests. But like we have a lot of YAML and we have a lot of bash in this repo, and it's not tested all the time. So if anybody is interested in that sort of thing, talk to Arnaud or me. Okay, last one for you, Hippie, or any of your group, the CNCF Infra working group.
Sure. One of the reasons you're seeing a lot of II folks in here is Priyanka has asked us to step forward and to invest our time heavily in helping move things out of the Google-owned infrastructure and into the not just the community-owned Google project, but beyond that. And part of that is part of a project she's putting together for the cloud credits and how to best steward those. We've done a really good job at pioneering the K8s Infra working group and to take the community resources and find these ways where heaps of people who are not at Google helping to manage that. And I think there's iterations to be made beyond. So taking some of the templates of success here and applying it beyond the Kubernetes community. And that means that it's still going to be 90% of our time, I think, inside of K8s Infra working group. But I want to start putting down those guardrails for a larger scope thing. And to that extent, we're probably going to need a TOC sponsor because that's my understanding of how CNCF project-y things work. And I just want to make sure if there's any other interested parties or cloud providers to let me know. On a commitment level, I want to make sure that we are focusing on the right things as we're showing up, particularly for Caleb and I. What I hear our group saying is that the big priority is please find a way for us not to spend so much money giving away the things that we produce as a community, because it's a large part of the bill. So that's our first focus there. And the next focus is this is where I'm not sure. There's a couple of umbrella issues from Aaron around migrating things from inside Google to the community infrastructure. And if that's the right next focus for our attention, I want to make sure we are doing the right things prioritized from this group.
Is the goal to bolster the Kubernetes infrastructure effort, or to make it possible for other CNCF projects to achieve similar results?
For the CNCF Infra working group, it's going to be both. It's definitely bolstering the number of, I think part of the filter there that they're trying to encourage is that the infra group is there to definitely allow contribution from other cloud vendors to the K8s Infra working group, but to do so under the like as a organized effort, like the Cloud Credits program, and how we bring that into other CNCF projects would be going through the CNCF Infra working group, so that this group's focus can remain on the Kubernetes community.
Okay, for the record, I was about to ask if other people are interested, why don't they just show up? But actually, I understand the need to sort of formalize what we've done with the credits from a organization management point of view. So, okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'm interested in this longer term. I feel like there's a lot that I want to resolve or land here first. I don't know. I always get trapped in this, like, I would love for what we're doing to be a pattern that others can extend or, you know, rubber stamp or even just use straight up. If only it weren't so bad right now. There's just so much bash and stuff. But, you know, if it'll help get more people into the pool, I think that would be great. So one other comment there, I feel like I saw a comment from Stephen Augustus, who's been trying to sort of stand up a bunch of infrastructure for the inclusive naming project, which I think is adjacent to the CNCF or related. So he might have some feedback or input or some contributions to provide to that effort. And he already participates in the contributor strategy, CNCF SIG. So there's that. As far as I opened up a bunch of issues to migrate stuff out of Google, that is the mandate of this working group. And until all of those are done, this working group has to stick around, or who knows, maybe one day we'll admit it needs to be a SIG. But I consider those to be important. And I will start pinging on those like by next meeting. I've been kind of focused on resolving all this audit stuff and busy with other things. But as I look at code freeze coming up and test freeze coming up, I really would like us to push to get all of the images that are used in Kubernetes CI pulled from the community and not from Google. I don't think this represents that bump, but somewhere along the way, I did that for all of the CI binaries. So that's all coming from the community now. But I will poke on those. And generally speaking, if there are issues in our project board and they're in either of the backlog columns and they have the 121 milestone, I'm still pretending like this is something we as a group have committed to accomplish by the time 121 goes out the door. I may be compelled to prune things out if that doesn't seem like it's the case, but I would love your help with moving those things forward. That said, like if I'm looking at like the biggest thing you can do for the CNCF to help offset costs is to really like prototype and explore the artifacts mirroring.
We'll look at both of those between Caleb and I to put some definite engineering time and hours into the umbrella, and obviously the reducing the cost.
Thanks so much. I'm gonna move us forward to Linus's agenda item. And we cannot hear you. Oh no, you're not muted. We just can't hear you. If you're using the web client, maybe sometimes it needs to be told to use your microphone.
Or just hang up and reconnect.
Yeah, that also works. Just Google things. This is what they force us to do on our Google laptops. This is why I switched to my personal laptop for these meetings.
By the way, Tim, I agree with you. Yes, just show up. And I'm going to advocate for that showing up here first. It's more of trying to set a future pattern in space for the replication of the success that we'll have here.
I mean, there are multiple aspects of what we're doing here. The one half is like just get everything out of Google. The other half is, oh my God, make sanity out of the mess that we've now created for ourselves. Even as careful as we have been in moving things over, you know, I'm still staring at a big tangle of bash code right now, trying to figure out what exactly it does.
Okay, Linus is back. I don't see his video. Can we hear him? Oh, his microphone is muted. Are you there, Linus?
Now we can neither see nor hear you.
We can see you.
I can't see him.
Oh, we still can't hear you. Okay, why don't I just do my best shot, and Linus, you can like chat me if I'm messing. You can ping and chat if I'm messing this up. Linus is the individual responsible for the container image promoter, as most of you probably know, which is why we have k8s.gcr, or it's how we have k8s.gcr.io today. He worked with an intern a little while ago to augment that or get automated vulnerability scanning of all of our images, which was really cool. He's looking to host an intern this summer to help remove the basal dependency from how image promoter is built, which that sounds cool. And yes, we've been talking about how we kind of want to get artifact promotion to look a lot like container promotion. And if we could unify these tools together, that would be amazing. It would probably involve a bit of a rewrite of the image promoter, but that sounds like a really cool thing. I hope I announced that well. Is there anything you want people to provide you, Linus? Okay, yeah, main thing is to sync with release engineering and see sort of what their priorities are. I agree with that. So thank you. I'm gonna use that to just ramble a sec for on Tim's thing of like there are multiple parts to what we do here. So making our bash less awful and getting everything ported over, and then making the management of it less messy and awful are great. But I would also say that it's partially because it's awful, maybe partially because it's really heavy infrastructure that people want to just work. I feel like the release engineering team has done a good job of really formalizing roles and documenting stuff and making other people feel like they are empowered to contribute to this because some of the release stuff kind of has a routine and it's locked in and there's regularity to it. I think we're still kind of figuring those roles out here, but we're sort of beginning to converge on some common patterns and stuff. Oh, wait, I think I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry. I just realized that the little, I just learned how to use Zoom. I haven't used it in a while. Yeah, so thanks, Aaron, for the overview. Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess you kind of took away my thunder there, but yeah, there's been some efforts to do some like CLI refactoring, the way I see it. There's like a new tool called K-Promo that is trying to combine Justin's like efforts in the image promoter code base. So for a little background, the image promoter stuff happened, and then Justin Santa Barbara came along and said, I want to do file promotion, and he added some code there. But it looks like that code has been lifted and moved into this new tool called K-Promo that Stephen Augustus is writing or working on. There's a pull request to add image promotion there as well, but it just I need to take up with him because one, just my gut instinct tells me that it seems like it's doing a lot of work for I don't know what the gain is there. Like I don't know what the need for a rewrite is, but maybe I'm wrong. So I'll need to sync up with them there. The other thing is like, I do recall, I didn't add it in the notes, but there's a big thing about the artifacts registry thing and how that's going to impact image promotion or artifact promotion and stuff. And that, I don't think it was, I was doing something else while other people were talking earlier in the meeting, but that needs to be addressed as well, I think. But I don't know what the status.
My impression is like they had a big scary announcement before Google Artifact Registry went GA that said like, we're going to support container registry for 6 months and then you've got to move. And that scary language got removed once they went GA. So my impression is Google Container Registry isn't really going anywhere, which is great.
Yes.
That said, I have noticed that like, so CloudU is here, has been working on a lot of the getting multi-arch images, Windows images for end-to-end testing of Kubernetes pushed into GCR in our community infrastructure, has bumped into some, so there's like a bug between Containerd and certain registry implementations. It affects GCR, key.io, it affected GitHub Container Registry and a number of other things. Eventually, the bug will get fixed and make it into build kit, and then everything should be good. But other registry implementations have like worked around this, including Google Artifact Registry. The Google Cloud Registry has not, which could be a sign that, I don't know, maybe like it could be in a slower support cycle. But again, until I feel like there's a really strong, urgent reason to move, I'm not planning on investing effort in that. But I will defer to your knowledge and wisdom on that, Linus. I think you probably know once you dig into it.
Yeah. I guess that's it. We're over time, so I won't say anything more.
We are. So I'll just say thank you all for showing up. Something I want to talk about next time, or maybe I'll chat with some folks offline, is as I look at us resolving the audit stuff, one thing I would really be interested in doing is removing humans from the path of actually running some of these scripts. And so trying to understand, you know, what would it take to, where does our comfort level need to be, and what can we do to get there, to like have some of the common patterns, like add a staging project, to be something that's automatically pushed. Like I feel like we've reached that pattern for add a Google group, or update group membership, or add images to the k8s.gcr.io registry. And I would love to figure out how we can do more of that. But I will save that for next time. Okay. It was really great to see you all. I hope you have a happy Wednesday. I hope the run up to code freeze is not too crazy for some of you, and performance reviews are not too great for others of you. And that you get some sleep.
Thank you for your help.
See you, folks.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Wednesday.